Okay, we're back from what turned into a 10-minute recess. We're on item 16, which is a public hearing to consider an application for Chapter 353 tax abatement for property located at 6134 through 6204 Raytown Trafficway. This is the second reading, and I'm going to ask the clerk to perform the second reading at this time, followed by reopening of the public hearing.
An ordinance adopting and approving the Fifth Amended Development Plan submitted by the Raytown Municipal Redevelopment Corporation, establishing a declaration that the redevelopment area described within the Fifth Amended Development Plan is a blighted area in need of development and redevelopment, and authorizing certain tax abatements within the redevelopment area described within the Fifth Amended Development Plan.
Okay, I'm going to reopen the public hearing and ask if anyone on the board would like to share any ex parte communication they may have had on this subject. Mr. Van Buskirk.
I have had a brief discussion with the property owners. It will not affect my decision related to the matter.
Okay. Mr. Mock.
I also have. It will not affect my decision.
Ms. Melson.
I'm on the Raytown Municipal Redevelopment Corporation Board, and it will not affect my decision.
Mr. Pardue.
I'm also on that board, and it won't affect my decision.
I chair the RMRC, and it will not affect my decision in the event I get to vote. Mr. Ertz.
I guess before the last meeting, even I had some discussions with Dr. Markley and various Chamber of Commerce members about it, but I do not think it will affect my vote.
Okay. All right. Mr. Azure.
I guess I might mention that I've had comments with Dr. Markley also, and I happen to be an employee of the school district. It will not affect my vote.
Okay. Very good. And Mr. Cappy, I assume you're comfortable with all those admissions?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir. Ms. Lynn, would you like to reopen the application or readdress the application, please?
Mayor and Board of Aldermen, we had lengthy conversations about this application at our last meeting, just as kind of a recap, and then I know the applicant has quite a team here tonight, and they have additional information they'd like to present to the Board of Aldermen, so I'll let them do that. Just as a reminder, this is for the property located at 6134 through 6204 Raytown Trafficway, generally known as Center 63. The application is from the owners, Eugene Hargis and Jeff Arnold of AHG, asking for a 353, a level C 353 tax abatement for this property. As you are aware, the major portion of this project is to renovate, remodel, and subdivide the former grocery store space that was 31,605 feet into 2 spaces where Sav-A-Lot would be the tenant in one of those spaces. As we discussed earlier in the 353 study session, level C market shifting is defined as the abatement of the cost of improvements, or 10 years at 100% and 15 years at 50%, whichever occurs first. Just another reminder about how that actual piece of the program works. As we discussed, the application does have to meet both design level 3 and economic impact level 3 criteria that we covered earlier in the evening. This level C, based on the current guidelines, does not include a required amount for to be expended on the exterior or facade improvements. That's really all I have at this time. Obviously, in addition, Paul Campos stayed with us for this evening in case you had additional questions about the tax impact analysis. But at this time, I know the applicant has additional information they want to present.
All right, I'm going to call upon the applicant at this time to make their presentation. Ms. Bushyhead, welcome.
Good evening. Christine Bushyhead, White Goss Law Firm, 4510 Bellevue, Kansas City, Missouri, 64111. Thank you for your attention this evening. As we promised, we're pleased to have with us our property owners this evening, and they are very happy to be here, and we'll look forward to their opportunity to answer your questions and speak to you after we I give our update to our hearing from last week. To remind you, our owners are AHG Incorporated. Gene Hargis and Jeff Arnold are here. We also have Cher Blanford here. Audrey was not scheduled elsewhere for this evening, so you'll just have Cher and I tonight from on the agent side. You also should have at your places 4 different handouts that didn't all come together, but eventually I think might have gotten to you. One of them is a big picture PowerPoint slide that we'll get to at a point in our presentation. And you have also a revised renovation cost list. We also gave some handwritten notes on, because we worked up some things late yet today, regarding the school district's impact, and then you also have some employment data. But if I can go back to what I'd like to cover in in my initial comments this evening, we came away from our hearing last time with a couple of specific items that you indicated you needed more information on. And we heard comments that you made and have reacted to those comments, and we're hoping those reactions will satisfy some of your concerns. Definitely is a reaction that we studied closely to make sure that we could still have a project that would be successful, but be able to accommodate some of the issues that you brought up last time. We heard you make comments regarding blight and your concern about blight, the renovation costs themselves, Sav-A-Lot from a corporate entity standpoint, the school district and the impact on the school district, and then employment. So I want to address all of those areas with you. Initially, we were glad to see that there was a work session that talked about that definition of blight. This particular location within your 230-acre plus area, redevelopment area that's been defined in your program, some of the aspects of the blight definition that really apply to us is that inadequate or outmoded design. We have vacancies related to that. You've heard from us talking about the square footage of our large box vacancy and how that's not as marketable as, and how we have now potential tenant at 15,000 square foot size that helps with that. But with outmoded design, you have economic and social liabilities, and economic underutilization of a site has been found by the courts in Missouri to be a blighting factor under Chapter 353, and we definitely believe that we have economic underutilization that's market-driven, and we believe that this 353 application is going to assist us in addressing that blight factor. And obviously, because of the situation that we have there with the center at this time, it isn't able to pay the kind of reasonable taxes that we all would like to see paid there with a full and vital and vibrant center. And we're hoping that this is our jumping off point. We believe strongly in the Sav-A-Lot tenancy and how that's going to help us start the development and remediate the blight in this circumstance. So that's yet one of the other reasons why we see ourselves squarely within the program that was described earlier in your work session. And why we believe that the level C improvements that we're doing and that we qualify for that 25-year abatement. Moving on to the renovation costs for the proposed Sav-A-Lot. Under your program, the RMRC has a program statement that we used in guiding our list of improvements, and in that list that was provided to us, they had a list of eligible improvements. On the interior, there was painting and plumbing and electrical work, structural alterations, energy conservation, wallpaper drapes, stationary fixtures, bathtub or sink assistance, exterior signs, paint, masonry work, windows, entrances, window replacement. There was a list of ineligible items, too, on the exterior, inappropriate cleaning methods to the exterior, and that's part of historic preservation, which is really not applicable here. And then interior standpoint, furniture, appliances, inventory, and display fixtures that were unattached to walls were the ones that were excluded. Now, we believed the list that we put together was squarely within the examples of what the eligible improvements would be, but from the comments that we've heard, we also see that it might be reasonable for you as a board to believe that perhaps the interior, excuse me for a second while I get to the list, that the list that contained the refrigeration units and the refrigeration pieces were maybe more akin to display cases and appliances as stationary fixtures, and we were taking them as stationary fixtures. So what you see in our proposal is a deletion of those items, which are worth approximately $400,000, which are now, we're saying that we're seeking a reimbursement that be equivalent to the $804,482 number instead of the $1.2 million number. Now, so we've talked about blight and the renovation costs. Now, as far as Sav-A-Lot, we tried to do research, we did do research to try to find some information regarding potential bankruptcy or the financial stability or not of Sav-A-Lot. And in the end, what I ended up doing is researching and reviewing the two items. One was the Super Value Corporation, which is a publicly traded corporation. Their fiscal year 2010, which ends in February 27th of 2010, was the end of their fiscal year 2010. So their annual report I reviewed, and I'm going to give you some information from that. And then because, obviously, February 27th, I don't think we're in leap year, of 2011 will be the end of their next fiscal year that they're currently in. So we don't have that report to look at, but we do have their Form 10Q, which is a Securities Exchange Commission required report that they have to file, which will give us information about the company this fiscal year up through September 9/11/10. 9/11/10 is their second quarter. But Super Value is a corporation that has, has classified in two reportable segments of the economy. They are retail food and supply chain services. These reportable segments are two distinct businesses, one retail and one wholesale, each with a different customer base, marketing strategy, and management structure. And in the FY 2010, one of the notable accomplishments for the year was that the Sav-A-Lot, our unique hard discount format, announced plans to double its size from 2,400 stores to 2,400 stores by 2016. In fiscal year 2011, which is the one we're in, Sav-A-Lot will open 100 new stores. We enjoyed, this is talking about Super Value, we enjoyed the brand recognition of traditional retailers through our banners, the solutions, enterprise, and logistics capabilities of a national wholesaler, and the value of offering a hard discounter. And what that means is that they have the ability, like the large companies, Walmart is one of them, they have distribution centers where they work from the wholesale perspective, and wholesale provide to their stores that they own, in addition to independent operators that aren't part of the Super Value family, but they also sell to them. So from a company standpoint, they have that ability to work on both sides of the marketplace on the retail side, which in the long run they believe has assisted them in the downturn in the economy, which has hit all of the companies in the retail market. The company owns 333 hard discount food stores operating under the Sav-A-Lot banner, and licenses an additional 855 Sav-A-Lot stores to independent operators. So it's important to note that there's independent operators carrying the Sav-A-Lot banner, but there are 333 hard discount food stores of Sav-A-Lot that are company owned. This is going to be a company owned store. So it's important when digesting information regarding Sav-A-Lot, when you see a headline in the newspaper, are we talking about an independent licensor, operator, or are we talking about a company store, which is going to go to the bottom line of the company? So this is a company store that will be located here. In all of these types of annual reports, they have to list potential risk factors to the information provided in these reports. I can represent to you, and I can pass my notes along to you, that in that listing, there wasn't any indication that there was any concerns about bankruptcy or solvency of this company. In FY09, their net earnings were actually of loss of $2,855,000. Make sure I got this right. Sure, it was millions. $2,855,000 in a loss. In their FY 2010, they actually had a net earnings of $393,000 overall. And their dividends, they pay dividends regularly. They've been paying dividends since their inception. Let's see what else I can tell you about this company. SuperValue is one of the largest companies in the United States grocery channel. SuperValue conducts its retail operations under the Acme, Albertson, Bristol Farms, Cub Foods, Farm Fresh, Hornbachers, Jewel, Osco, Lucky, Sav-A-Lot, Shaw's, Shop and Save, Shoppers Food and Pharmacy, and Star Market banners, as well as in-store pharmacies under the Osco and Save-On banners. Additionally, the company provides supply chain services, primarily wholesale distribution across the United States retail channel. SuperValue is focused on long-term retail growth through targeted new store development and remodel activities. During 2010, the company added 40 new stores through new store development and closed or sold 112 stores, including planned disposals. The company leverages its distribution operations by providing wholesale distributions and logistics and service solutions to its independent retail customers through its supply chain segments. And that is all the information from that's some relevant information, I believe, from their annual report for 2010. Now, from their Form 10Q SEC filing that goes through their quarter. It was 325 pages. Just have a couple highlights. Thus far, at the end of their second quarter, they actually are currently in a net loss position of about $1,470,000. That's based primarily on some factors that will not really be solidified. They have to, at this juncture, make some estimates regarding the goodwill and intangible assets portion of their financial statements, and so they have to make that estimate, and they've done that, which has led to this net earnings loss at this point. But the real numbers will be out in the third quarter. In fact, from their long-term debt standpoint, their long-term debt a year is actually $1,600,000 less today, or at least on the September 11, 2010, was $1.6 million less than it was on February 27th of 2010. So one of the strategies that they have is to continue to reduce their outstanding obligations, and in fact are not in a critical debt situation, and actually are significantly paying off debt in this fiscal year. Retail sales all across the marketplace in identical stores, different companies, is about 6.4% decline in the first two quarters that we're reporting here. The SuperValue is experiencing about a 9%, so a little bit higher than the average of their identical stores, but nothing of note of alarm. The gross profit as a percentage of net sales was about approximately 22.4%. for the 2011 year to date and compared to 22.3% last year. So although, and this is, you're pretty much getting close to the exhausted level of my expertise as it relates to annual reports for publicly traded corporations, but it's not uncommon to have your annual earnings loss, but you still have a profit based upon whatever segment of the company you're looking at. So that's just, I think, probably more than care to know about SuperValue, the parent company of the wholly owned subsidiary Sav-A-Lot. And we can certainly delve into more if you have more specific questions. So then I'd like to turn to really an analysis that I think we neglected to really convey, I think, our message effectively as it relates to what we're really asking for here and what that impact is going to be. Got tied down into a lot of numbers as far as our impact analysis, but not the big picture economics. And so you have for you a copy of this particular slide, and we want to illustrate the level of investment that's going to happen here that really wasn't emphasized or really talked about last time, because we focused a lot on the Sav-A-Lot space. But the Sav-A-Lot space is going to be a $1.2 million investment. It's still a $1.2 million investment, even though we're only asking for $800,000 of that to be accredited or put towards a reimbursement under the tax abatement program. So that still doesn't take away the fact that that investment is going to take place by this particular retailer. But in addition to that, phase 2, we explained that the renovations that are going to take place in the 1.2, some of that includes some of the basic work that's going to be done on the other half of that space, the 16,000 square foot that isn't leased at this time, and we will call that the adjacent vacancy. Once a tenant is identified, there is going to be additional work that will have to be done to make that occupant ready. And that's going to be an additional probably $285,000 invested into that space to make it occupant ready. So that isn't part of the $800,000 the reimbursement that reimbursable project cost amount that we're looking to from our abatement standpoint. Also, in what we're phrasing as phase 3, because we have one project, 4 phases, is exterior work. We have, over the last several years, spent about $137,000 in exterior work at this point. We have planned over the next few years as we begin the tenancy fill up of this space that we think the Sav-A-Lot will be an impetus to assist us in, is $113,000. So that's an additional $250,000 that's not part of the $800,000 that we're asking for a tax abatement reimbursement for. And then finally, phase 4, as those small shops begin to fill, they will have a $5 to $10 square foot minimum allowance. In addition, there may be other costs, but that's at a minimum to get those spaces ready for whatever particular tenant may move into that space, which it can be another $62,000 to $124,000 investment. On the property owner side, that is not reflected in the $800,000 request that's just for the 15,000 square foot Sav-A-Lot and a little bit of the beginnings of the work that needs to be done for the adjacent vacancy of 16,000 square feet. So I think it's important to see that this is a larger development. This is 6 acres. This isn't just a 15,000 square foot box for Sav-A-Lot. This is a 6-acre development that has a lot of other things going on here. We're just saying we have found a tenant that's critical. It fits this program. It fits it fits the area. It fits the need. And we're just saying that in order to get this tenant here, get this space going, this is the incentive level that we're requesting. and we qualify in your program in that regard. And then the employment information. We have provided to you a breakdown of the employment. I'd like to remind you that the criteria for the program is a minimum of 15 full-time employee positions are created or retained. The information that we provided to you and the breakdown is from a survey of the employee of our tenants. So you can see in the back the actual detailed reporting of where this information comes from. There are currently at this location 50 full-time positions and 25 part-time positions. We believe through the 36-month lease up of this space, of our vacancies, as well as which includes the Sav-A-Lot, the adjacent parcel, and then the adjacent space, and then the other current vacant spaces, that we have another 40 full-time positions, likely with another 36 to 39 part-time positions. So this economic development deal has the potential of retaining 50 full-time employees positions, retaining 25 part-time employee positions, and adding 40 additional full-time positions and 36 to 39 part-time positions, for a total of 90 full-time positions and 61 to 64 part-time positions, well in excess of the 15 required by your program. And finally, there's been a lot of discussion, and we spent time with Dr. Markley, discussing issues related to impact on the school district. Part of that discussion, originally we talked about the potential of us making a capital contribution on an annual basis for the first 10 years to assist with that deficit of property tax that was going to occur in the initial parts of the project. But then when we moved to having only $800,000 of reimbursables, that really made it look like, if things go as projected, that although we're asking for a 25-year program, that would be what we'd be approved for. We think that we're going to hit that number in year 11. So the information that I've provided to you in that regard, as it relates to the school district, is okay. In year 11, we'll have reached our reimbursement amount. That means that this property goes on the tax rolls at 100% in year 12, as opposed to year 25, or with the $1.2 million we were talking about, it might be year 18 last time we were here. What that results in is still a negative with the personal property tax to the school district of about $125,000, but with our annual capital contribution of $6,000 a year for 10 years, you take another $60,000 off of that. So you're looking at the loss to school district in the first 11 years of this program of about $65,680, which is less than well, it's probably like around $6,000 a year, something like that, $6,500 a year. But in return, once this goes back on the second page, once this property goes back on the tax rolls in year 12, between years 12 and 25, which originally we were asking for an abatement period, we think will not need it, they will not ultimately use it. Now, I don't want to confuse you. We still need to have a contract for 25 years. We just believe our projections are going to show that that will collapse, because your program says for our level C, 25 years, 10 years at 100%, 15 years at 50%, or until your reimbursable project costs are reimbursed, and we're saying that's going to be closer to year 11. But you'll note on that page that it shows that the school district in those last 13 years is going to have a benefit of $603,762 in personal property, real property taxes, above what they would have gotten on that property if our development doesn't happen. And then on the personal property side, they'll experience an increase of $192,991 at this 6-acre site, if the development happens, as opposed to what they, if it doesn't happen, they'd have $8,144. So I think that in the end, with your comments and the adjustments we've made both in the redevelopment cost side, the reimbursable project cost side, and a capital contribution for the school districts, I think that we've probably hit a point that makes this hopefully a more supportable project from your perspective. We are very committed to the goals of what this could accomplish for this center. We've waited 3 years to find the tenant that will work in that space, work in this area, and work for both the center as well as the region of the center. And I'd be happy to invite the property owners to come up at this point and give you any additional information, especially those that had concerns about the actual way in which our property owners conduct their business.
Christine, if it's okay, the property owners are coming up now? Okay. That's fine.
Or
That's
we
fine.
can do questions.
That's fine.
It may be easier for them to respond to questions as opposed to really present. They really aren't here to present. They're here to respond.
Okay. Then if you gentlemen are okay, let's hang on just a minute here. That's all right.